All right, we'll get started, everybody. Just wanted to give a quick hello. My name is Mark Elbash. I'm class of 2011, and I'm also the co-chair of the Reunion Weekend Committee for the class of 2011. And it's such a pleasure to be here tonight and also to introduce Zach, who's going to give a great class tonight. He's a fellow class of 2011 member, and he's a former bar manager and wine consultant. And I know he's going to do a great job. He's probably one of the smartest friars I know, most thoughtful friars I know, and overall just a great guy and a great friend. And on a personal note, I've actually known Zach since I was 5 years old. We grew up together. So on that note too, I could tell you this event was coming when I tasted his lemonade at our lemonade stand in the neighborhood. So if his cocktail's anything like his lemonade, I know it's going to be really good tonight. So with that, I can't wait for tonight, and just really looking forward to it. And I know how much work went into this year's reunion weekend. So I know we have a great weekend ahead as well. So we'll kick it off.
All right, everybody. First of all, Mark, thank you so much. That means a lot. That's incredible. Thank you, my friend. Good evening, everybody. Happy Thursday night and happy reunion weekend. We're getting started early. As Mark said, my name is Zach Odachowski, class of 2011. I am currently a wine consultant in North Carolina in the beautiful city of Durham for Epiphany Fine Wines. And tonight we're going to make some cocktails. As a quick heads up, just so you know, I've got a couple of dogs here that are a little worried about the storm going down right now. So if you hear any barking, I apologize in advance. But they're just hanging out with us as well. So we have 4 cocktails we're going to make tonight. The first one is a personal favorite of mine. It is called the Mai Tai, and we've actually added a little bit of a friar spin to this and calling this one the Friar Friar T.I.E. So Mai Tai goes back into the 1970s, 1980s for the tiki bar craze happening in California, going back to Trader Vic, who basically created all of the cocktails that we see in tiki bars around the world today. And the Mai Tai is one of those ones where, you know, it kind of got lost along the way. And what we see now is not really the classic cocktail that used to be. So we're going to try to bring it back a little bit. So my inspiration for this one, if you've ever done a cocktail class with me before, I'm always inspired by food. It's just, you know, some people have these great cocktails they can base on works of art or on pieces of music. For me, it's always been food. And I always think back to when I was at Providence, walking around, going to LaSalle Bakery. They had these insane blueberry corn muffins that I don't think I've ever been able to find anywhere else since. And I have tried very hard. And the great nutty textures and aromas in a Mai Tai, especially adding in a little bit of blueberry, kind of just reminded me of that. And we start off there. So make it a Mai Tai. Always add in your fresh blueberries, as many as you want. Obviously, the more you add in, the better the flavor is going to be. You're going to add in 3/4 ounce of fresh lime juice and 3/4 ounce of a cool little ingredient called orgeat. So orgeat is an almond liqueur, or excuse me, an almond cordial. I always like to make it at home. What you do is you toast up some slivered almonds and then send it through a processor. And what you do after that point is you're going to add it in with a little bit of water, a little bit of sugar, bring it up to a boil, add in those almonds or pistachios, whatever kind of nut you want to use, and just let it steep for hours. And over time, you get this incredibly fragrant and rich simple syrup that just really is a perfect addition for cocktails. And from there, we're going to add in a very healthy dose of rum. Tonight, I'm using Fair Game, which is a rum distillery here in North Carolina. And this is an amber rum, which means that they have put it through just a little bit of oak aging. Next up, smell the fruit a little bit. Then just a tiny bit of ice to this, because really, it's all about the flavor for this. And there are the puppies. Sorry about that. And what you're going to do is you're going to do what we call a double strain. Double strain just allows you to get all those ice shards, the fresh lime juice, the pulp, and any residual almond out of the drink. Come on, Bubs. Sorry about that. Oh, man. And you're going to finish it off with a little bit of fresh ice. And you have this beautiful, cool summer sipper. It has this beautiful, almost milky quality to it. Another easy way to make an orgeat is to use almond milk and just mix it together with a little bit of sugar if you want to make it. It's a great way to begin a beautiful evening. Cheers. And please, as we go along, feel free to ask any questions you might have, technique, certain spirits, whatever you might have. I'm more than happy to answer. So where do you buy orgeat syrup? Actually, a lot of places. It's been popping up all over the place, which is fantastic. If you don't feel like making it at home, you can actually get it at most local grocery stores have started carrying it. And if you have a local cocktail shop, they should carry it as well. And honestly, it's just as good walking the store as it is homemade. Personal favorite of mine is going to be Gifford's, Giffard. They have just a little tiny bit of sulfite added to it just to hold it over for a little bit of time. One thing I will say with orgeat is it's a little bit of a tricky syrup. When you've made it, it is very easy to ferment. It's, for some reason, I've never been able to really figure out why, but if you don't add anything to kind of preserve the syrup, a lot of people will add in either cognac or vodka to hold it over. If you don't add that in, it will ferment and the bottle will explode. Substitute it with anything. Oh, in what sense? Sorry.
Like if you don't have access to it, can you use a different ingredient?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So in a pinch, if I am really feeling a tiki cocktail and I don't feel like going through the process, get a hold of brown sugar, sugar in the raw, any kind of unrefined sugar still has that really nice herbaceous kind of rustic flavor to it that will show through better than if you were to make a simple syrup out of confectionery sugar or refined sugar. That's a great question. I would also recommend, in a pinch, maple syrup will also work a real good substitution. Cheers. So next, one of the things I miss most about Rhode Island and the Northeast overall is, actually I'm really happy Mark brought up, is lemonade. Dell's lemonade is still, to this day, I have not found anything to basically to match it. I miss that old sense where it's just frozen drink, the lemon rind is still in there, the seeds are still in there, but it's still just an amazing cocktail, or actually it's still just an amazingly refreshing drink. And I was always a huge fan of the watermelon one. So with that in mind, I have a watermelon margarita that I'm going to add a little bit of basil to as well. So one of the first, I think it was the first cocktail class we did, I talked a little bit about blending flavors together. And when it comes to tequila-based drinks, tequila, those great herbaceous green vegetable notes in tequila go incredibly, incredibly well with tomato. So the inspiration behind kind of mixing together watermelon and basil harkens back to kind of like, think about whenever you've gone out to a restaurant and you get that like a tomato gazpacho. They usually blend in just a tiny bit of watermelon, top it off with fresh basil. It's been an absolute favorite of mine forever. But the difficult thing with doing watermelon and basil in a drink is twofold. The first is watermelon is a little bit of a tricky ingredient because of its high water content. The flavor is beautiful. You get this wonderful umami, but since the water content is so high, you have to think about how much ice and how much you're shaking the drink. The second is going to be the fact that you're using a basil. Basil, any kind of herb, it has a breaking point to it. Where if you muddle it up a little bit, you get those beautiful extracted oils. But if you start to muddle it too hard, where the basil begins to brown or to kind of turn color, you're going to start to get these inherent kind of bitter, complex flavors. It's almost the plant's own defense mechanism, really, to being eaten, is that as you like, think about if you've ever gotten a caprese salad and you've chewed on that bite a little bit too long, you start getting this bitter note coming in. That's the basil, that's the oils starting to kind of interact with the palate. So put our, I'm just gonna move it, there we go. So you add your watermelon and your basil in, and instead of going for an incredibly hard muddle to it, you just press it a little bit, just enough so you start smelling the basil, and just to break down the lining of the watermelon just enough. And then, as with any beautiful margarita, fresh lemon juice, or excuse me, fresh lime juice. God, that was almost sacrilegious. A orange curacao. Tonight I'm going to be using Patron Citronage and a very healthy dose of tequila. And we have Espolón tonight. Espolón Añejo is, if you are looking for tequila that is a great bang for your buck in terms of cost. A bottle of Añejo tequila can go typically upwards $60, $70. This is like a $35 bottle, and it's still made in the traditional 2.5 year method in oak. And again, you're going to add some ice. My ice machine went down like hours before this, so I'm trying to make do with what I have in my from the fridge, but we'll make it work. And again, the dogs are seeing me pick up the tin, and they're watching me from the other room, and it's like they know it's about to happen now. So I'm going to throw myself on mute. It's easy. So again, you're going to do a double strain here, because the watermelon, once you've extracted the flavor, it's just going to get in the way, and you don't want any of that basil to get into the drink now that's been muddled. Those flavors are going to start to really come through and get a little rough. And you can see everything's already extracted. You can see the basil start to turn. It's not really that good anymore. Now with that, I top it off with a lime wheel. Now, something that's always been a bit of a contentious thing when it comes with cocktails is garnishes. You probably see some ridiculous cocktails in the day where, you have the edible flower and you have the ridiculous, lemon peel or lime peel. So one thing I always love to point out to people is the difference between a lime wheel and a lime wedge. And it's kind of just a fun thing for bartenders to kind of talk about and think about, is that whenever we put a garnish on a drink, it serves a purpose. It's there to either somehow enhance the drink or enhance the look. Because, by itself, this drink, it looks good, but it doesn't have the same pop as you get with a little bit of contrasting color. But the drink is already what we would refer to as balanced in and of itself. So what we mean by balanced is that all the flavors are already there. We don't want to change the drink at all. So you add in a lime wheel because it's very hard to squeeze in. One of the classic things when you go, you get a drink, you always typically pick up the garnish and you want to squeeze it in because you assume it's part of the cocktail. When you get a lime wheel or an orange wheel or a lemon wheel, it's just meant to be kind of there for show and for the aromatics. And the reason we do that, you can't add any juice to it and you won't change up the cocktail at all. So a little fun bartender secret for you. Now, for the third drink, this one was challenging. I feel like I was really put on blast with this, and I am so here for it, is to make, any additional tequilas that I recommend. I will always recommend Herradura, which is this really nice, what we refer to as a tequila alta. It's grown at high elevation as compared to a lowland tequila, which is going to be a little bit sweeter. Personal feeling on that one. The agave spends a little bit more time in at those higher elevations. It spends more time in the sun, and it develops secondary sugar flavors where it goes beyond just fruit and more into these nice vegetal notes. And then if you feel like really, kind of spending a little extra money and going for something really nice, Don Julio, there is nothing better in this world than Don Julio. So I will stake my life on that. Give me 1 second. Sorry, when I'm on dog duty, it's a bit of a thing. So back to the challenge. There was this challenge to make a black and white cocktail that, man, this was a tough one. I had to spend a few days kind of researching, thinking about what I wanted to do here, because that is tough. And I ended up having to go back to this idea of a classic cocktail called the Black Manhattan. It is one of the, it's one of the best drinks to do when you are stuck trying to come up with a cocktail that nobody's tried before, but is still palate friendly. And it's very, very similar to your classic Manhattan, whereas instead of using a sweet vermouth to add that secondary flavor to the drink, you're using a category of liqueur called Amaro. So Amaro is going to be this class of Italian liqueurs that is based on bittering agents. And you've probably seen them before in classic cocktails and in a lot of different bars in every city. Think about Campari in a Negroni, or an Aperol in an Aperol Spritz. Those are what we would refer to as Amaro. Just using different bittering agents. So, for example, Aperol is based on bitter Valencia orange. Campari has a little bit more of valerian root to it. And actually, interestingly enough, fun little fact, if you ever want to pull it up at a party, Campari gets its color traditionally from the shell of beetles indigenous to Italy. Not anymore, but fun little fact. But one of my favorite ones to use is Ramazzotti. Ramazzotti is a low alcohol liqueur that has these nice little, almost like quinine tonic notes to it. Now, unfortunately, North Carolina has a very difficult time getting a hold of things from Italy right now because of the shipping delays that we were seeing around the world. So I had to go with a second favorite. Now, for you, Ramazzotti is if you like something that has a little bit of sweetness to it. That quinine is inherently adding just a tad bit of sweet, and then you get these nice dark chocolate notes. But if you like something bitter, I would recommend something called Cynar. And you've probably seen this bottle on a back bar before. It's almost always full, and it is really cool liqueur, but it takes a little getting used to. So Cynar is this classic, it's one of the first Amaros, and it's based on a blend of 18 different herbs and spices, the most fun of which is actually artichoke leaf. And that's why you see the artichoke on the logo. So we're gonna go with that tonight. Also has a beautiful jet black color. So when you are making a Black Manhattan, typically you are going to be doing mostly whiskey with a little bit of Amaro. But for this, since we need the color, we're going to do it backwards. We're going to do 2 ounces of the Amaro, here the Cynar, and 1 ounce of whiskey. Tonight I'm using a little bit of Knob Creek rye for that spicy note, and you add in your bitters. Actually, I'm going to go extra dash tonight. I feel like I've earned it. Now, if you did the cocktail class last time, you remember that egg white drinks are a lot of fun. And they're also a lot of work, but also very worth it. So when you're making an egg white drink, you start off with what you call the wet shake, which is you're shaking it with ice. And you do a quick double strain right on back into the glass, or into the mixing tin, I should say. Now, you take your egg. Any egg will do. It doesn't have to be it does not have to be organic, free range, brown, or white. And you just box back and forth that egg white, holding onto the yolk. You just go back and forth between the two eggshells. It takes a lot of practice, absolutely does, but it's a real fun party trick to show off. And then, now that everything is back together, you're gonna shake for basically as long as your arms can take it. The longer you shake, the more the cocktail will separate, where you'll get the liquor at the bottom and you'll build this really nice foam up at the top from the egg white. This was one of the most annoying things to have to do when I was bartending is, you have a busy night, the bar is full, you have the printer ticking, and all of a sudden somebody asks for that egg white drink. And you basically just look at them like they swore at you. And now, if we did this correct, tapping the side will further allow the cocktail and the egg white to separate. And allow it to settle a little bit. And we get as close as I think we're going to get to a true blue black and white cocktail. Still a little brown, but if we give it a little bit of time to oxidize, I promise it'll get a little bit closer. Averna in the liquor. Oh, Averna, yes. So Averna, unlike Ramazzotti, has this really nice, almost like a milk chocolate note to it. It is hard to find sometimes. It really took off amongst bartenders a couple years ago, and I don't know if they haven't been able to keep up with. Oh my God, I'm out of breath. Jeez. I don't know if they just haven't been able to keep up with production. But if you have a bottle of Averna on you now, hold on to that for dear life, because those are treasured goods these days. Up a little bit, get everything back to where we need it to be. And then one thing that comes up a lot when I'm making egg white cocktails, and I always like to pass this along to everybody, is you worry about cross-contamination, you worry about salmonella or any other egg-borne bacteria coming through in your drink. And you do not have anything to worry about as long as you are adding either or both alcohol and a citric flavor to your drink when you are shaking with an egg white cocktail. And the reason that is that citric acid and ethanol will very, very quickly kill anything that is living in there. So egg white drinks always feel perfectly fine. See, we're getting closer. What was my go-to drink at PC? Oh, Lord. Let's just say if I see Captain Morgan or if I see vitamin water these days, I need to call my doctor. No, I would absolutely, I've always been a rum and tequila guy. So I love a good dark and stormy. And that was one of my favorite drinks to have when I was going out. And I mean, I will never say no to a beautiful Narragansett tall boy. It's absolutely incredible. So moving down to North Carolina, I never thought it, but Narragansett is basically our PBR. There's no PBR anywhere. There's no natty lights. Sorry, my fridge is yelling at me. But every dive bar and college bar is just Narragansett as far as the eyes can see. And it makes me feel so at home. So going off of that, that's actually a fantastic segue into the last drink. And I think this one is pretty near and dear, is going to be pretty near and dear to all of our hearts in one way or another. And that is the Raymond's Breakfast. It's a play on a beautiful classic cocktail called the Gordon's Breakfast, and is one of my favorite ways to get a hair of a dog after a rough night. So think back to, Saturday morning, going into Ray after a very long night of studying, and you are just reaching for everything that you can find there just to find some sort of meal to get you through after a very long night of studying. One of the best things you can do for yourself is to get a hold of electrolytes and complex salts. That will bring you back to life. They've actually started doing studies on this around the world, basically to find out what the best way to cure a hangover is. And they keep finding it that if you get something salty in you and you get something that has heavy electrolytes, you're going to do fine. Interesting one is there's a little bit of discussion between it where a team in England found that the best hangover cure is a bacon sandwich based on its chemical composition, whereas a team in Southeast Asia found it as a mixture of coconut water, lime, and cucumber with a slice of cheese. I'm not shaking my head at either one of those, but it just shows, you reach for your thing that gets you through the day and you got it. So you are reminiscing back to your Providence days, remembering Ray Brunch, and you're at reunion and you're at your Airbnb, and every Airbnb has the same ingredients hidden away in a closet because everybody has gone there and made a meal. There's always a lime hanging around. There's always salt and pepper because everybody's bought a salt and pepper shaker. There's always some Worcestershire sauce and hot sauce, and it just kind of lives there because it never goes bad. And you can make a drink out of that, and that is the Gordon's Breakfast, or in this case, the Ray's Breakfast. So for this drink, you take cucumber. Let's pretend, you arrive for a reunion and you decide you're going to have a healthy meal instead of Golden Crust the night before. So you have your cucumber. You have that lime that's been sitting in the fridge. And you cut that down into quarters. Now you take the Cholula and you take the Worcestershire sauce. And you're going to add about a bar spoon's worth of Worcestershire, which is basically just a couple dashes. It doesn't have to be a full teaspoon. And then 2 bar spoons worth of Cholula. Fresh lime juice, just to add a little extra kick, about 1/4 ounce, just to add a little bit of 2 different complexities, lime juice and lime pith and lime skin. 2 very different flavors. I love this, that play between the 2 of them. And then a little bit of simple syrup, just to get some sugar. And then, of course, since this is a hair of the dog, 2 ounces of gin. Tonight I am using Hendrick's Lunar, which is this really cool recipe that a friend of mine who represents Hendrick's came up with, and was he came up with it for the lunar eclipse, and it was just a way to basically drink your Hendrick's gin while watching the eclipse. Now, you do a quick muddle of this. And this, you really actually want to go to town on to really open up the cucumber and to extract the oils from the lime skin, or the lime peel, I should say. And you take a bit of ice. and you shake it on down. And you're going to do a single strain here. Excuse me. The reason you're going to do a single strain is because the cucumber still has these really healthy bits to it, and you want a little bit of pulp in there from the lime juice, just for the heck of it. And now you've almost got basically a deconstructed Bloody Mary here. Now with this, you want it to dilute pretty quickly because the flavors are pretty intense and because you want it to go down quick. So you would take a little bit of ice and take, if you have a muddler, fantastic. The back end of a spoon is also incredible. You hit it a little bit and you'll see that you begin to crack the ice just enough so this will dilute a little bit faster. It's also a lot of fun. And I'm not gonna make you guys watch me crack ice for the next 5 minutes. So I'll show you the mise en place to this. You take a little bit of that pepper grinder that's been there and salt grinder, and you have the Gordon's breakfast. This is honestly one of my favorite drinks. Cheers.
Zach, I'm excited to try this one because I'm not a huge fan of Bloody Marys.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always wanted like a breakfasty drink to have, and I'm a huge gin fan, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to try this one.
It saves my soul. I love this drink so much, and it's just a lot of fun to make because if you need the drink, you probably want to muddle something really hard and hit ice. Like it wakes you right back up. And looks like I went through the cocktails pretty darn quick. I apologize.
Did you drink did you finish them?
Oh God, no, absolutely not. No.
Zach, are there any other websites that you recommend that have some good recipes too?
Absolutely. So liquor.com is a fantastic one. It's one that a lot of bartenders will actually submit their recipes to. It's kind of like our own little recipe book, and it grows over time. You can learn how to make different simple syrups. You can kind of learn a little bit more about the history behind drinks and kind of get an idea of what the trends are, what are coming out. It's always fun to see what crazy things someone has come up with. Actually, when we were talking about possibly doing a black and white drink, something I was trying last couple of days to kind of search for was activated charcoal, which is something that people are starting to add to drinks for a couple of different reasons. The first is obviously for the color. Activated charcoal is just a little bit of coconut husk that they burn down and basically, turn it into a charcoal. And then you grind it into dust or you put it into a capsule form. And not only is it going to add that incredibly black, dark hue to it, it also has medicinal purposes. Activated charcoal is what is referred to as a super absorber. Basically, what it does is it is somehow able to handle, I think it was 40 times its weight in attaching to free radicals, oxidants, toxins, all throughout the body. So it is actually a fantastic way to kind of remove toxins from the body and also helps with digestion. The caveat to that is that if you, and this is just kind of an aside to it, if I ever talk about an ingredient that has a little bit of a danger to it, I always like to point it out. Activated charcoal is not good for folks who are taking ibuprofen or any sort of prescription medicine, because since it is so good at absorbing, if you, let's say, you've had your meds and a couple hours beforehand, it will actually absorb those from your system. So that is a little caveat to the activated charcoal. But another fantastic cocktail site I absolutely love is called Difford's Guide, DIFFORDS guide.com. Difford is considered one of the preeminent authorities on gin and bar culture. He is a cocktail writer in London. He also has these fantastic bar guides to basically every major city in the world, telling you which bars to go to and kind of what bartenders are doing interesting and fun things.
Zach, do you get into any of the crazy garnishes like with the breakfast drink? Like
For that, I would probably just keep a cucumber on there and just kind of let it marinate over time and infuse, and it makes for a great finish once you finish the drink. Also, if you are so inclined, a piece of bacon is really nice. Yeah, bacon in a Bloody Mary or in a basically any brunch cocktail is vastly underrated.
I know some of these brunch places now you see like a slider and a piece of shrimp and it's like stacked, you know, with all these different food items.
And that always worries me because when you're bartending, you have what you refer to as your mise en place, your prep station. The phrase in bartending when you're learning is that there's a place for everything and everything has its place. And you have all of your garnishes set up for a busy brunch shift. You know, you've pre-cut all of your lemons, your limes, you have all of your lemon peels ready to go. And I'm imagining there's just like a container of sliders just sitting there that they throw the blood on the Bloody Mary before it goes out. Nobody's waiting for them to cook. I remember, what is it? I think it's wherever the Milwaukee Brewers, I forget the name of their stadium, they have one that has like a donut and a slider and a slice of pizza on it for the Bloody Marys when it goes out. And I mean, whoever's going for that, more power to them. Yeah. Any other questions?
Well, I cannot wait to use some of these at our future PC events, and we're definitely going to be sharing this video for all our reunion attendees this weekend because I think they'll have a fun time with these.
Yeah, and while I have everybody, just a quick thing. Thank you to everybody who has reached out to do the private events, and we are still continuing them. It is no charge. I just ask that y'all donate to a local charity or food bank, and we will still do wine tastings, cocktail classes, beer classes. If you need me to help you learn how to, dine in a fine dining restaurant, doesn't matter how much, but yeah, if you donate to charity, I will happily donate my time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Zach.
Thank you. I'll have a wonderful evening and have a fantastic, fantastic reunion weekend.
Hey, thanks so much, Zach.
Thank you. Good to see you, Mark.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.